Hello everyone, my name is Professor Kenneth Scholler. I'm your professor for the course Introduction to Philosophy, so if you're watching this, you're in that course. And what we're going to talk about today are just some of the branches of philosophy, the word philosophy itself. And I earned my doctoral degree at the Graduate Center of the City University of New York, and I'll be making these videos throughout the semester, and as well as seeing you, so I hope we'll have a good semester. Anyway, welcome to philosophy. So today I wanted to talk about the word philosophia. Philosophy is composed of these two parts. It's a Greek word. Philo means love of, sophia means wisdom, so put the two together, you have a love of wisdom. Pythagoras used that definition in the 6th century BC, the same Pythagoras who said that a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So he said philosophers are lovers of wisdom. And that still has legs. That's still something that is true to this day. Now there's also the other definition of philosophy, besides analyzing just the etymology of the word. The definition of philosophy that I like, and if you were to Google the word philosophy, you would get literally thousands of definitions. But the one I like was used by a mid-20th century American philosopher by the name of Brand Blanchard. And he said, philosophy is a systematic inquiry into the ultimate nature of reality. I always like that way of putting it, systematic inquiry, because it proceeds by logic, not willy-nilly by feeling or randomly, into the ultimate nature of reality. Reality, he's not talking about the ultimate nature of the physical world, but reality meaning if there's a physical world and if there's a non-physical world, the spiritual world, it talks about that too. So philosophy cuts off a very big chunk here and asks questions like, as we'll see, let's take the first branch right now to see how good Brand Blanchard's definition was. Metaphysics is one of the 6 branches of philosophy. Metaphysics, meta, another Greek word, and physics means beyond the physics. Is there something beyond the physical world? This is part of philosophy's investigation. This is not part of English literature's investigation, biology's investigation, chemistry's investigation. Only philosophy is this broad. And what are some of the questions that come up in this inquiry known as metaphysics? Well, is there an afterlife? Are there gods? If so, what are the arguments for God's existence? What are the arguments against God's existence? These are all topics we'll be looking at in several weeks. Is there a soul, and is that soul immortal? Is dualism true? Dualism, the belief that there are two kinds of substance to a human being, the spiritual part and the physical part, or is something like monism true, that there's only one kind of substance? So those are the kinds of issues that come up in the branch of philosophy known as metaphysics, and that's another way to know philosophy. Besides the word itself, and besides the definition, there are many, I gave you the one by Blanchard, we can look at the branches of philosophy. Married to the idea of metaphysics is epistemology, the second branch. Epistemology is based on a Greek root, episteme, which means knowledge. And epistemology is the study of knowledge. When do we have knowledge, is what the question is raised here. This will come up with René Descartes, Plato, John Locke, all figures that are in the syllabus and that we will get to, you'll see, that are an important part of this course. We want to distinguish, as Plato did, for example, between knowledge and opinion. I might have the opinion that LeBron James, for example, is a better basketball player than Michael Jordan. But if I just assert that opinion, is that knowledge yet? Suppose that's my conclusion of an argument. But how do I support that conclusion? If I support it with relevant data, for example, then I have an argument. I might support it badly, or I might support it well. But in any case, we want, in the study of knowledge, we want to notice when something becomes knowledge as opposed to opinion. If someone says hydrochloroquine will cure the COVID virus, do we count that as knowledge? Even if he repeats it many times over, do we count that as knowledge? I think not. That's just a rather worthless opinion. After epistemology, we can go to the field called ethics, and we will in the course. Ethics is the study of human well-being. It also investigates right from wrong, good from evil, and there are questions that come up here that are relevant too in philosophy. So we're going to use our concern with metaphysics and epistemology and with logic and the study of when is an argument, when is something not an argument, when is something merely opinion, and carry that over into ethics. A major concern today is what is the difference between civil disobedience and uncivil disobedience. This is a political question, of course, because civil disobedience, whether it's Henry David Thoreau or Mahatma Gandhi or Martin Luther King, falls under the category of political philosophy. So civil disobedience is a subset of political philosophy. Peaceful protest is civil disobedience. We could say that maybe there's such a thing as uncivil disobedience if the protest gets out of hand. So there's where we bring ethics to bear on political philosophy. In any case, this is something we'll investigate as we get further down the course. But really, it's a study of right action versus wrong action, and we'll take that on in due course. Ethics comes about halfway through the course. After ethics, we have political philosophy. And political philosophy, to be brief about it, is the study of what is correct in the form of government. What are the correct forms of government? Plato, to go back to him for a moment, said that a republic, or kind of meritocracy, is the best form of government. And he talked about having a philosopher king or philosopher queen, the most fit person to rule, the wisest person ought to rule, according to Plato. Is monarchy the best? Is democracy the best? Is oligarchy the best? Is a communist arrangement the best? Of course, communism is an economic philosophy, but also a form can be a form of government. Now, after that, we'll take on aesthetics if there's time left in the course. Aesthetics is the study of the philosophy of art. What is art and what is not art? You raised this question many times. Philosophy can always be applied, you've noticed, to concerns in your life. I go into a museum, or you go into a museum and you see things there, maybe there's dots on a canvas, and drip painting, the kind Jackson Pollock did. You might raise the question, is this art? It's a legitimate question to ask. It's there in the museum, implying that someone thought it was art. But we're allowed to raise the question, what makes that art? And philosophy is the only field to really raise this question. I mean, there's art criticism, there's theater criticism, and so on, and they're kind of doing aesthetics. But philosophy really presses the point. So philosophers are not always liked by people in the arts who think that philosophy perhaps should stay out of it. I don't think philosophy should stay out of it. I think it's a very pertinent question to ask. In logic, which it really is the basis, it's a branch of philosophy, but it's the basis for all that we'll do in this course, we really study the difference between good and bad arguments. Logic, you'll notice if you take a logic course, is called the study of arguments. Arguments are composed of premises and conclusions in logic. Premise is a supporting statement, and a conclusion is a statement that follows from those supports. If you have both, you have an argument, not merely opinion. And so, to go back to my earlier example, if I say Michael Jordan has the highest scoring average of all time in the NBA, which he does, that's my premise, and I say from that he is therefore the best player, that would be my conclusion. Does that premise support that conclusion? I can bring in additional premises, and it's thought relevant if I do. If those premises are relevant to the conclusion, the argument becomes stronger. If they're irrelevant to the conclusion, they have no effect on furthering that conclusion. But logic is a very important field because you're always dealing with arguments throughout the history of philosophy. So it's not just in a logic course per se that you will study arguments, but all philosophers are always analyzing arguments and saying what makes them right and what makes those arguments wrong. Since this is the baseball season, I could say if I'm a fan of the Yankees, I can say they're the greatest baseball team of all time, and you say, well, what makes you say that? That's just your conclusion. I say, well, that's my conclusion, but they've won 27 World Series, and that's more than anyone else. St. Louis won 11, they're in second place, so they're way behind. So that would be an example of a conclusion supported by a premise. So we're going to be looking at arguments throughout the course, and I think that that's rather relevant too. Now, for the next time we meet, you'll be doing those first pages in the textbook on philosophy, and this is introducing what philosophy is. And so when I see you again next week, we'll be talking about that. So I welcome you to philosophy. It'll be nice to do this for 15 weeks. I hope you'll enjoy it. If you give philosophy a chance and do the readings and post your answers, you should learn a great deal. So thank you.